सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति।
So at present, discussion on knowledge, spiritual knowledge is going on. So in essence, what is this knowledge? According to this knowledge, each one of us, we are pure consciousness, which is infinite, which is immortal, which is of the nature of bliss. But now, in our ignorance, instead of identifying with consciousness, instead of owning up this consciousness, we have got identified with our limited equipments, namely body, mind, intellect. And now we are searching for happiness. Body, mind, intellect, they are by nature limited. Any amount of perfecting them will not give us total fulfillment. So what are we supposed to do? The only thing possible is jnanam. What is that jnanam? Understanding that I am consciousness, not BMI. And what is the process of understanding? Disidentification from BMI is all what we need to do to experience our own state of perfection. So here Bhagavan laments. What does he say? Ajnanena jnanam avrutam tena jantavaha muhyanti. The knowledge is covered by ignorance, therefore jantavaha, beings, are deluded. Jantu. Jantu means punaha punaha jayate iti jantuhu. The one who is born again and again is jantu. So here jantavaha means human beings, not other beings, though the definition applies to them also. Punaha punaha jayate iti jantuhu. The one who is born again and again. So it is because of this lack of knowledge that human beings are born again and again. Therefore, what are we supposed to do? Gain this knowledge. Is there any other substitute? There is no other substitute. Knowledge alone will ensure freedom from bondage. That point is once again mentioned, reiterated. Jnanena tu tad ajnanam yesham nashitam atmanaha. Yesham, in those in whom ajnanam jnanena nashitam, in those in whom ignorance is destroyed by knowledge. Which ignorance? Which kind of ajnanam? Atma ajnanam, ignorance of the self, is destroyed by which knowledge? Atma jnanam. So yesham atma ajnanam atmanah jnanena nashitam. The one whose self-ignorance is destroyed by self-knowledge. This has to be understood. The problem is ignorance of the self, so therefore solution has to be knowledge of the self. if the problem is darkness, what is the solution? Light alone can be the solution. No, I will remove darkness by buckets. With the bucket I will remove darkness. Is it possible? Not possible. No, I will broom it out. Is it possible? Not possible. So let us try to understand, if there is a problem called ignorance, what is the antidote for ignorance? Knowledge alone. Now this clarity has to be there in every seeker's mind. What is the problem? Therefore what is the solution? Because this has to be reiterated, because there are very many people who say, I have done Char Dham Yatra, so therefore my moksha is guaranteed. Or every day I chant Vishnu Sahasranama, Lilada Sahasranama, therefore my moksha is guaranteed. Your moksha will not be guaranteed as long as you don't know who you are. That doesn't mean that you should not chant these. What is the purpose of chanting, puja, japa, etc.? They are important. They will purify your mind. All your spiritual sadhanas, like upavasa, etc., they will purify your mind, and only a pure mind can gain this knowledge. They will prepare your mind for knowledge, but understand, self-knowledge is unavoidable. Because the problem is self-ignorance. When problem is self-ignorance, the solution has to be self-knowledge. This clarity has to be there. Okay, can someone else give moksha to somebody else? Can someone give moksha to somebody else? This is another wrong notion in our mind. Let me live the way I want, compromising with all values. My son is there. He will perform my Shraddha Karma in Gaya, and thus Muktu ho gaya. No. Gaya is considered to be the very, what do you call, sacred place, isn't it? Impossible. Wherever your body is burnt, maybe the body may be burnt in sandalwood. Maybe all great pandits are there chanting Veda mantras. Maybe you give lot of dakshina to those Brahmins also. They may promise you that, your father will definitely go to... There is no guarantee. Let us very clearly understand, our own karma only will come along with us. Make this very clear. Don't depend on anyone else for your moksha. If you have to become liberated, you have to earn it by your own self-effort. Kabir, Sant Kabir was dying, last moments, and he was in Kashi. He lived throughout his life in Kashi only. So then Kabir said, now take me out of Kashi. The disciple said, Guru, what are you saying? People come here to die. Because the faith is, whoever dies in Kashi becomes Mukta. Kabir said, no, take me out, immediately shift me to another village. I don't want to die in Kashi. They were all wondering, because old men, women, everyone, they come to Kashi to die. And here is a person who says, that too at the moment of death, I don't want to live in Kashi. Then Kabir said, I want to die and attain liberation on my own worth. It is said, Kabir died in some other village, though he lived throughout in Kashi. The whole point is, if you want to get liberated, what is unavoidable? Self-knowledge is unavoidable. Each one we have to put forth effort by ourselves. Atma jnana vihina mudhaha te pachyante naraka nigudhaha. Which text? Bhaja Govinda. Bhajatina muktim janmashatena. What is that verse? Sarvamatena bhajatina muktim janmashatena. The one who doesn't gain knowledge by all philosophies, even hundreds of births after also. Kurute Ganga Sagara Gamanam Vrata Paripalanam Athava Danam. After that? Anyway, leave it. Okay. Jnana vihinaha sarvamatena bhajatina muktim janmashatena. Jnana vihinaha sarvamatena bhajatina muktim janmashatena. There also the same idea comes. The point is, one must gain this knowledge by oneself. So, in those people, yesham atmanah jnanam, atmanah yesham ajnanam atmanah jnanena nashitam, those people who have destroyed the self-ignorance by self-knowledge, tesham, in them, jnanam adityavat tat param prakashayati. In them, this very same self-knowledge, they illumines that supreme truth like sun. Jnanam adityavat, like sun, tat param, that supreme truth, prakashayati, illumines. That supreme truth which is being spoken of, it is something which every one of us can experience. You need not believe. In the beginning, belief is necessary. In the beginning, you start with faith, but slowly what happens? It becomes your experience. Once it becomes your experience, you need not believe. Why? Because you know. When you know, you need not believe. As long as you don't know, you have to start with faith, with belief. Later on, like sun, it illumines. Suppose there is darkness in a place. So we don't know which is the path. What are the dangers en route? We don't know. But once the sun rises, when everything is clear, there is no confusion. Same with this truth also. Now comes a very, very nice verse. Now please understand, this jnanam can be gained only by purity of mind. How this purity of mind can be gained? Through Karma Yoga, all those things we have seen. Remember, this knowledge is not something just to merely repeat like a parrot. It is not. I am consciousness with a body. This is not something you have to repeat like a parrot. No, it has to be an experiential knowledge. This is important. Let it not remain merely as an information. That's the point. There was once a thief. After stealing, he was running and police was after him. So then as he was running, he wanted to hide and he saw some satsang happening. So he went and sat there. And incidentally, this particular topic was being going on. So that Mahātmā was saying, he was telling, you are not the body, you are consciousness. You are not the mind, intellect, etc. This person heard. Who? The thief. Later on at some point he was caught. What did he say? I did not do anything. Mind desired it, intellect planned it, body executed it. I did not do anything. Then the magistrate said, okay, fine, you jump out of the body, we will punish the body. So, maybe not use this knowledge in such terms. One eagle was seated on top of a tree, doing nothing, just seated. One rabbit, it saw the eagle. And it asked, Eagle, can I also sit like you, doing nothing? Eagle said, yes, why not? Rabbit also sat below, under the. Within moments, one fox came, caught the rabbit and ate it. What is the moral of the story? If you want to sit doing nothing, you should be very, very high. You should be seated very, very high. This is the moral. It's an Aesop's fable. So here when it is said, Naiva kurvanna karyan, I don't do anything, etc. Don't try to practice it without real knowledge. These are all the dangerous, what you call, experimentations of Vedanta. So this knowledge should not be something as a mere information. It should lead to very transformation. How this sadhana can be practiced? A beautiful verse. Let us chant the next verse. Tad buddhayastadaatmanaha Tannishthāstatparāyaṇāha Gacchantya punaravrittim Jnana nirdhuta kalmashaha tadbuddhayastadaatmanaha tannishthāstatparāyaṇāha gacchantya punaravrittim jnana nirdhuta kalmashaha. Yes. Tadbuddhayaha tadatmanaha tannishthāha tatparāyaṇāha jnana nirdhuta kalmashaha apunaravrittim gacchanti. Such a person reaches a state beyond return. Who is this person? There's a beautiful verse on sadhana. So now let us put them in some order. First let us take tatparāyaṇāha, first term. The second quarter it comes, last word. Tatparāyaṇāha. Tatparāyaṇāha means what? The one who has kept that as the ultimate goal. So this comes as the first step in spirituality. Tatparāyaṇāha. Keeping this goal as the supreme. Keeping this goal as the highest priority in life. Tatparāyaṇāha. So even when he is living his life, he has this goal as a lifetime goal. He may have lot of short-term, long-term, mid-term goals in life, but what is a lifetime goal? This spiritual goal. To know this truth. Now the thing is, what is that which will help us in keeping this goal as the supreme? It is nothing but satsang. Only in satsang you will be made to know. You will know that there is a goal to be reached in life. Otherwise, if you are not exposed to satsang, what will be your life? Balastavat kridāsaktaha tarunastavat taruni saktaha vriddhastavat chinta saktaha. Childhood goes in play. Youth goes in attraction towards opposite sex. And old age goes in worrying, fearing, chinta. Isn't it? So therefore, what is the first step? Satsang. Only in satsang you get that clarity about life. And that is why, this old, in Vedic tradition, all small children, once the Upanayana is over, thread ceremony is over, immediately they are sent to where? Gurukula. 15 to 20 years live under the teacher. Learn from the master. Serve the master. Get a clear understanding about life. What is life? What is the purpose of life? Everything is taught for 15-20 years. And after that, he is allowed to get into Grihasthashrama. So by that time, this child has clear understanding about life. His goal is set. So even when he is fulfilling his responsibility, he has the goal very clear. What is the goal? To gain liberation. What a wonderful system, isn't it? Our Vedic system is the best, no doubt about it. That stage is called Brahmacharya Ashrama. So first this Brahmacharya Ashrama, all this knowledge is given. So that is why Indians, what we call past, is called glorious past. In every field we were great. All because of this kind of knowledge. Okay, so tatparāyaṇāha, keeping that goal as the supreme. So this knowledge you gain from satsang. You get an opportunity to listen to the scriptures, what the scriptures have to say. Bhagavan Shankaracharya in one of the places says, the scriptures are like thousands of mothers put together. The scripture, like a mother, shows you the path lovingly. So therefore we must make it a habit to study the scriptures regularly. Discussion. Now we are having study group classes, etc. So therefore, what you call, all the time, somewhere or the other, you must be in touch with scriptural knowledge. This knowledge will slowly, it will make your priorities clear in life. And what should be the highest priority? This knowledge should be the highest priority. Tatparāyaṇāha. Now, Once you have set this knowledge as the highest priority in life, once you have valued this knowledge, you cannot but strive forth to gain this knowledge. This is a law of life. What is a law of life? Whatever you value in life, you will have time for it. Whatever you value in life, you will put forth effort for it. This is a law. And therefore, whatever you value in life, you will get it. So therefore, tat parayanaha, keeping that as the highest goal. Then next term, tad buddhayaha, take that term. So naturally this person strives to gain this knowledge. Will he gain the knowledge? Surely he will gain the knowledge. He will find the means to gain the knowledge. Tad buddhaya means he intellectually understands it. After having gained the knowledge, he understands it. So Shravana and Manana is indicated in the term tad buddhaya. Shravana means listening to the scriptures. So now the information has come to you that there is such a knowledge. But mere information will not do. This information has to become conviction. How conviction happens? Through mananam, through reflection. So what happens in reflection? You have a set of knowledge, a set of understanding with you. Now after Shravanam, you receive a new set of knowledge. Now many times your present set of knowledge doesn't match with the new set of knowledge. Then what do? You have to churn. Is this right or is that right? Now since that knowledge is coming from a trustworthy source, it may be coming from the Guru, it may be coming from the scriptures, so therefore no doubt that knowledge has to be right. The present knowledge which I am having has to be faulty. Right? The present knowledge which I have, the knowledge which I had gained through various sources other than the scriptures, and if that knowledge is contradicting with the new knowledge which I receive from the scriptures, from the teachers, from the satsang, etc., what does it mean? It means there is some problem with my knowledge. I have to receive that knowledge. Now, when two sets of knowledge come, naturally you have to take one, discard the other. Now, if you have to take the scriptural knowledge, you must be convinced. When will you get convinced? Only when logically it is proved that the new set of knowledge is the right one. Intellect will ask questions. Why do you want to replace this knowledge with that? How can you say that that knowledge alone is real and this is fallacious? So therefore scriptures themselves, they provide the logic. Because of this reason, your present knowledge is faulty. Because of this reason, your, the knowledge in the scriptures is right. Like for example, a single example. Normally, what is our understanding about ourselves? I am this body. What does the scripture say? No, you are not the body, you are the observer of the body. How do you know? I know it because according to the law, observer is different from the observed. When I observe something, that observed thing is different from me. This is the logic provided by the scriptures. So in the same logic, the body is something which is observed. So naturally, the observed body is different from you. So this way, step by step, logic is given in the scriptures. Once logic is provided, intellect is satisfied. There are no more doubts. So after Mananam, what should be your state? You are convinced. Intellect is no more raising any doubts. Once your knowledge has reached doubtless state, then that knowledge becomes a conviction in you. Are you able to understand? In Shravanam, it is like cow eating grass. What does it do? It just bites it and gulps it. It is not digested. What does Mananam do? It is chewing the cud. Whatever you have listened, you bring that knowledge and then you churn it within yourself. How is it that possible? How can that be true? Scriptures are saying that I am infinite. How is it possible? Scriptures are saying that I am not this body. How is it possible? These doubts will come. So slowly you have to remove all those doubts through Mananam. Tad buddhayaha means Mananam stage is complete. Now you are convinced. Right? Now that alone will not do. Intellectually you may be convinced, but that knowledge has to become well assimilated in your system. That term is represented by Tad Atmanaha. Third term, Tad Atmanaha. It should become your own. Atma means your own. The one who has made that knowledge one's own. Meaning that knowledge is assimilated, digested, become one. The example given is the coffee and the sugar. You have put the sugar, but that doesn't mean coffee is sweet. When will the coffee become sweet? When you stir it. When the sugar becomes totally dissolved in the coffee, coffee becomes sweet. So this effort is tadatmanaha. Knowledge is there, conviction is there, but even then, it is possible that that conviction has not led to transformation. So this stage is called Tad Atmanaha, the effort put to convert the conviction into transformation. What is the difficulty faced here? The difficulty faced here is our habitual way of living. I know something is right, but my habit is such. For so many years, maybe so many births, I have made this habit to think that I am this body. So naturally that habitual error continues though intellect is convinced otherwise. These are called as vasanas or samskaras. To give an example, especially this old couple, when one of them passes away, let us assume the husband is 90 years, wife is 80 years old. They have lived maybe 60, 70 years together. And suddenly one of them passes away. Husband is gone. Now this wife thinks that he is still there. She very well knows that he is gone. Have you seen such instances? The mind is not ready to accept that this person is no more. Though she knows, she has attended all those that cremation ceremony, etc. But even then the mind is not ready to accept, because so many years they have been living together. Suddenly whenever the problem comes, she thinks that he is there and she calls the person's name. Same thing whether husband passes away or wife passes away. This is called habitual error. Same thing happens to us brahmacharis also. After 2 years of course, suddenly our name is changed. Next day, whenever new name is called, we don't even respond. Because we are not, tuned to that name. We think somebody else's name is being called. It is our own name. We have attended the function. The head of the organization, he himself has given the name. But even then, we don't remember. This is called habitual error. Are you getting the point? This is what goes in Nididhyāsanam. Another very simple, this happens in our day-to-day life. In bathroom, suppose your toothbrush is kept somewhere. Every time you pick up that toothbrush from the same place, suppose you change the place. Next day, your hand tend to go in the previous place, isn't it? These are all the examples of habitual error. Because of habit, you tend to do that. So this habitual error is what goes away in Nididhyāsanam. Shravanena ajñāna nivrittihi, mananena samshaya nivrittihi, Nididhyāsanena vasana nivrittihi. Now this takes a lot of time. This is one stage where really it takes time. So how does this go? So here next term comes Jnana Nirdhuta Kalmashaha. Kalmasha means impurity of the mind. Nirdhuta, washed away by what? Jnana. the impurities washed away by knowledge. So what is the process that happens in this Nididhyāsana? Remember, this person has already reached that jnana stage. He has already overcome all the Karma Yoga stage. Gross impurities are removed. Now he is trying to remove the subtle impurities. How do you know one is gross impurity and the other is subtle impurity? Any gross impurity of the mind will necessarily end up in action. Gross impurity of the mind will lead to thoughts. Thoughts are very powerful and the thoughts force that person into action. Any impurity of the mind which forces a person into action is called gross impurity. How to remove this gross impurity? Karma Yoga is the method. Because in Karma Yoga, you are allowed to exhaust it through action. Action is allowed. So in Karma Yoga, gross impurities, sthula impurity, sthula mala of the mind is removed. Now there are subtle impurities which cannot be removed through Karma Yoga. For this, you need Nididhyāsana. So at this Nididhyāsana state, what happens? You are seeing vasanas erupting in the form of thoughts. But now what you do? With the right understanding, with the knowledge of the scriptures, with that convinced intellect, you put an end to the thoughts at the thought level itself, not allowing it to take the form of action. Are you able to follow? Thoughts are at the subtle state, actions are gross state. Now, normally what happens is, in our mind, thoughts slowly build up. One thought, two thought, 4, 8, 16, and when the thought becomes very strong, it expresses at action. Right? Once a person has reached sufficient purity at the mind level, he is able to detect this thought build-up at a very early stage. As the thought build-up, 1, 2, 4, now he has detected it. How he has detected it? Because of his purity. Now see, here is the place where purity comes into picture. Now he is seated at the seat of meditation and the thoughts are building up, he has detected it. So once you have detected the thought build-up, you can easily nip it in the bud. So as the mind comes up with thought, his own intellect comes with a powerful thought, and thus the intellect is able to completely subdue the mind. Mind acts according to vasanas, past vasanas, according to previous samskaras, according to habits. That is how the mind functions. Now intellect, how does it function? Intellect functions according to the wisdom gained through the scriptures, gained through the past experience, analyzed through scriptural knowledge. That is intellect. Now in this person, intellect is really powerful because of his sadhana, because of his study. So as the mind comes up with a habitual thought based on the previous samskaras, intellect comes with a more powerful thought and it is able to subdue. Are you able to understand this tug of war within? If suppose intellect is weak and mind is strong, what will happen? Action. If not action, at least a total disturbance of mind. Maybe out of willpower he may stop action, but inside there is a total chaos. He may not express it as action, but internally he is totally disturbed. Now here is the tug of war between mind and the intellect. The old vasanas and the new knowledge. Now this tug of war goes on for a long time, but in the process what happens is, the powerful mind transfers its power to intellect. Whenever you fight with a strong opponent, what happens to you? You become strong, isn't it? That is what they do in gym, etc. In gym, you don't lift a bag of cotton. What do you lift? You do dumbbells, etc., which is heavy. So that you struggle. Every struggle, understand, makes you more wise. This is an internal struggle. Externally you don't see anything, but internally Kurukshetra is happening. What's that? Isn't it? War is happening inside. War between Pandavas and Kauravas. A big army of negativities, wrong thinking, misunderstanding, delusion. That's a big army. Because you have fed that army for such a long period. In all your previous lives, you have fed that army. So that army is very powerful. The present army is small. Only Pancha Pandavas are there. But they are powerful because it is with logic. It is with conviction. It has the backing of all the saints and sages, their experiences. So in this war, slowly what happens? The mind becomes weaker, intellect becomes stronger. You may commit lot of blunders. You will commit lot of mistakes. You will yield to lot of temptations. You will compromise. But every time you compromise, there is a repentance. Chah, I shouldn't have done that. Chah, I knew it, but even then I did it. And every time you repent, remember, intellect is becoming strong. And slowly a time comes when intellect becomes very strong. As the mind comes up with vasanas, it is able to subdue it. That is represented as jnana nirdhuta kalmashaha. Mind becomes free from all kinds of kalmasha, negativities. That habitual error also goes away. I remember a joke related to this habitual error. There was this person who just had a taxi, and the taxi was going, cab was going. So he wanted to tell something to the driver, so he just tapped the driver. And driver, he screamed. He lost his balance. Somehow he prevented accident, stopped the car by the side of the road, and he was huffing and puffing. Then the traveler, he said, sorry sir. No, it's not your mistake, driver said. See, the traveler only tapped from the back. Driver said, it is not your mistake. For the last 25 years, I have been driving ambulance carrying dead bodies. This is the first day this is the first day I am carrying a traveler, a passenger. This is called habitual error. So this habitual error also goes away with Nididhyāsanam. So that state of that mind after purification of the mind is called as Tannishthā. See that term, Tannishthā. Nishtha means firm abidance. What is the proof that knowledge has really transformed me? The proof is, whenever a crisis comes, you act according to the new knowledge. Effortlessly, naturally, spontaneously. Then that is a proof that this information has become transformation. If the knowledge is merely there as an information, at the time of crisis, this information will not be available to you. Isn't it? The proof that the spiritual knowledge has been well digested, the proof is at the time of crisis it is available to you. Your mind will be at peace. Your mind will not be agitated. The small children, etc., even the elders also, they have this stage fear. So they have lot of preparation. How the stage fear can be removed? Lot of information they have gathered. Done lot of practice. But when that moment comes, when they have to deliver in front of a large audience, what happens? They have prepared their mind, but I will not be tensed, I will not be worried, etc., etc. But the moment they stand on that stage, where that information goes, where that preparation goes, isn't it? So remember, unless the knowledge has become a part of your personality, it will not remain with you. Tannishthā means knowledge has become one with you. Then what happens? Apunaravrittim gacchanti. Such a person in whom this knowledge has taken root firmly, such a person, apunaravrittim. Punaravritti means returning back. Apunaravritti means no more coming back. That state of no return he reaches. So what are the sequence? First one, tat parayanaha, keeping that as the highest goal and then trying to seek that knowledge. Second one, tad buddhayaha, you have gained the knowledge, you are convinced. And then tad atmanaha, trying to make that knowledge. So in that effort what happens? Jnana nirdhuta kalmashaha, all the impurities of the mind gone, gross as well as subtle. And once the impurities are totally eradicated, once the vasanas are totally eradicated, what is the next one? Tannishthā, firm abidance happen. Firm abidance means your mind and the intellect becomes one. What does it mean? Mind functions based on likes and dislikes. Intellect functions based on rights and wrongs. So mind, intellect becoming one means what? Whatever is right, I like it. Whatever is wrong, I don't like it. This is called personality integration. Tannishthā. The mind firmly gains root in the truth. And once that happens, apunaravrittim gacchanti. Nice verse, isn't it? Yes. Now comes some of the verses which talks about the transformation that happens to this Mahatma. Let us chant verse number 18. Vidya vinaya sampanne brahmane gavihastini shuni chaiva shvapake cha pandita samadarshinaha vidya vinaya sampanne brahmane gavihastini shuni chaiva shvapake cha pandita samadarshinaha. Yes. Benefits of gaining this knowledge. Number one, samadarshanam. Mind attains this ability called samadarshanam. Equal vision. Vision of oneness. So here some examples are given. Extreme cases are given. He has the vision of oneness even in the extreme cases seen in the society. What is the first one? Vidya vinaya sampanne brahmane. A brahmana who is vidya vinaya sampanna. Sampanna means filled with. Filled with what? Vidya and vinaya. Vidya means knowledge, vinaya means humility. Vidya vinaya sampanne brahmane. A small digression from the topic. Who is a true brahmana? This is the definition. Vidya vinaya sampannaha brahmanaha. Who is a brahmana? Not by birth. Just by birth, nobody becomes brahmana. It is by qualification. It is by purity. He must have knowledge, and that knowledge must have made him humble. If that knowledge has made him arrogant, then that is not knowledge and he is not a brahmana also. The present day education makes a person more and more arrogant. Can you call that knowledge? It is ignorance in the bottle of knowledge. Wrapped up in the wrapper of knowledge, it is nothing but ignorance. True knowledge should make a person more and more humble. Vidya dadati vinayam, it is said. So who is a Brahmana? The Brahmana is the one who has knowledge and who is very humble. Humble means all noble virtues. A person who has, such a person alone is truly a Brahmana. So in our scriptures, etc., they praise Brahmanas. Please understand, their Brahmana is not by jati, by birth, it is by qualification. When such Brahmanas guide the country, lead the country becomes prosperous. Coming back. Vidya Vinaya Sampanna Brahmane. So on one side there is a Brahmana who is the embodiment of virtue and knowledge. Another side, Gavi. Gavi means cow. Hastini, an elephant. Shuni, a dog. Shwapake, a dog eater, meaning person born in very low caste. Dog eater. What is the understanding of Pandita? Panditaha Samadarshinaha. He sees in everyone the same. For him, all are the same. Darshanam means vision. Are we talking of physical vision with the fleshy eyes? If your vision is one with the fleshy eyes, then you have to check your eyes. A Brahmana, a cow, an elephant, everything you are seeing one. Means there is some problem with the physical eye, isn't it? So here, this darshanam is not with the physical eye, it is with the jnana chakshu, the eye of wisdom. He sees one. So what does he see? He sees consciousness wrapped up in different matter envelopments. So what is the essence? Essence is consciousness alone. So the very same consciousness which is pulsating in me as life, it is the very same consciousness in the Brahmana also, in a cow also, in an elephant also, even in a low caste person also. Inferior criminal also, it is the same consciousness. This is called Samadarsanam. To give an example, you may have nose ring, earring, what you call, anklet, necklace, etc. So many forms are there. But Samadarshana is what? It is all made of gold. Now remember, according to the size, shape, etc., you may use it for various purposes. So at the worldly standpoint, there is a use. But Samadarshana is there, isn't it? In the same way, here, a Brahmana sees them all. Doesn't mean that he will behave the same with everyone. At the behavioral level, he will have differences. Many times people say, oh, if you are seeing everything same, then your behavior also should be same. No. A Brahmana should be treated the way the society accepts it. A cow should be treated the way. Everyone has got his or her own place in the society, isn't it? In Ramayana, that is beautifully expressed by Lord Sri Ramchandraji. Consciousness is the same. That doesn't mean that I will sit along with my guru, putting my hand, we are one. Why should I prostrate to you? No. That is all foolishness. So if you see Ramchandraji, if you see Bhagavan in Ramayana, in front of Guru, he prostrates. In front of father, prostrates. So he treats the brother the way he has to be treated. He treats his wife the way she has to be treated. Treatment is different. According to the context, according to the place, according to the relationship. This is wisdom. Samadarshana doesn't mean treat everyone the same way. No. So this, what you call Pandita. Panda yasya asti iti panditaha. Panda means knowledge. The one who has knowledge is called Pandita. So such a person is able to perform his role beautifully well. He knows himself as he is, as consciousness. At the same time, that knowledge doesn't interfere with his role to be played in the society. Suppose there is a drama, and there is an actor. There is an actor in the drama. So this actor must know actually who he is, and he must also know what is the role given to him in the drama. Then he is able to play the role better. Suppose he forgets who he is and he gets totally identified with the role given in the drama. What will happen? There will only be a tragedy, isn't it? After the drama also he will behave the same way as that of that particular role. Gurudev used to say, suppose there is a king. In the drama he is the king. After the drama also if he behaves like a king, then he will be segregated and put in some lunatic asylum. Isn't it? The tragedy is we are also doing the same thing. We don't know who we are. We are so identified with the role given to us that we have forgotten who we are. So both has to be clear. What is my real identity and what is the role to be played in a particular situation, in a particular occasion. When this is clear, then life will be smooth, frictionless. Isn't it? Take that same example of drama. Suppose in the drama the actor is asked to die. He will be acting that part of death beautifully because he knows he is not going to die. Suppose he was given the role of a beggar. He will beautifully beg because he knows he is not a beggar. Isn't it? So in the same way, we are able to play our role better if we know we are someone other than the role which we are playing. So play the role as a husband, as a wife, as a child, as a parent, whatever the role is given to you, play it. As Puja Guruji used to say, Andar Rama Bahar Drama. Andar Rama Bahar Drama. This is possible only when you know yourself. Panditaha Samadarshinaha. Next one. Ihaiva tairjitas sargaha yesham samye sthitam manaha nirdosham hi samam brahma tasmad brahmani te sthitaha Ivatairjitas sargaha yesham samye sthitam manaha nirdosham hi samam brahma tasmad brahmani te sthitaha. Yes. Yesham manaha samye sthitam. In those people whose mind has been established in the samya avastha, which is earlier told as samyak darshanam or samadarshanam. Taihi ihaiva sargaha jitaha. Such people have conquered sarga, creation, here itself. Meaning, they have conquered death here itself. Those people who are established in the vision of oneness, they have become liberated even while living. Iha eva. Iha eva means here itself. Here itself means even while living. So this is another wrong notion which we all have. Moksha is something after death. This is our wrong notion. Moksha or mukti is not after death. It is while living. It has to be gained while living. Iha eva. Those people whose mind is established in that samyak avastha, samya avastha, in that vision of oneness, they have conquered death. Sargaha actually means creation, meaning rebirth. Sarga can also mean samsar. They have conquered. Samsar means what? Their mind is ever at peace. Irrespective of the problems of the world, tragedies of the world, he is at peace with himself. Therefore, tasmad brahmani te sthitaha, they remain in that supreme state of Brahman, because Brahman also is nothing but nirdosham samam. Nirdosham, free from all kinds of defects, limitations. So their mind has reached that state of absolute peace, absolute purity, which is nothing but the state of Brahman. So therefore, they remain established in that state. They have conquered death. Now remember, at the physical body, death is unavoidable. Conquered death doesn't mean that they are able to live forever and ever in this body. No. What does it mean? Body will die, but the fear of death will completely vanish. Why the fear of death will vanish? Because they come to know there is no death at all. It is only an illusion. Is there anyone who has experienced death? Is there anyone? I am not asking you. See, experiencing death is an impossibility. You know why? Suppose a person says, I have experienced death. What does it mean? If you want to experience death, you should be non-existent. How can a non-existent entity exist to experience death? You got the point? It's a contradiction. The word itself is a contradiction. The very fact that you have experienced shows that you are there. Then how can you experience death? Isn't it? So it is a mere illusion of the mind. Really speaking, there is no death at all. It is only an imagination of the mind. We die moment to moment in our own imaginations, in our own fears. These fears and worries, that is all mind created, not God created. There was once this emperor. He was conquering places after places. So then he entered into a village. All the villagers, they came to know that this emperor is coming. And whoever is on the way, you would just chop the head. That's how he was going. So the entire village was, empty. Nobody was there. But there was one saint sitting under the tree. So this emperor saw that this person is sitting. So he went with his huge army. He looked at him with anger. The saint smiled at him. Do you know who I am? I can chop your head without even blinking once. Holding the sword, he said. I can chop your head without even blinking once. The saint smiled at him and said, do you know who I am? I can get my head chopped without even blinking once. Many are not laughing. Maybe they have not understood. What did he say? What did the saint say? I can get my head chopped off without even blinking once. Now this is called fearlessness. Ihaiva tair jitas sargaha. That is called nishtha. Abidance in the truth is so strong that as far as they are concerned, this body is a useless thing hanging upon consciousness. That is the firmness of abidance. In Vivek Chudamani, the example given is like the garland hanging on the neck of a cow. So how much importance the cow gives to this hanging garland? It is not even aware when it falls, isn't it? In the same way, the body hangs on a realized master. The one who has realized the infinity, for him this is a useless nothing. Yes, it is undergoing his prarabdha. That's all. This body is undergoing its prarabdha. It has nothing to do with me. That is the way in which they look at the body. That is the state of their mind. Samye sthitam manaha. Taponji Maharaj, in the final moments it is said, he was there in skin and bone. The whole skeleton was visible. He was having a lot of disease also. But he never came down from Himalayas. Taponji Maharaj is Puja Gurudev's Guru. So then Swamiji Swami Chinmayanji, Puja Gurudev went to Taponji Maharaj and said, Swamiji, you just have to say yes. I am ready to give you the best medical treatment possible. But just come down with me in Delhi. I know the people, I know the hospital. Best treatment will be given to you. You don't have to suffer like this. You know what Taponji Maharaj said? He said, Chinmaya, do you mean to say that I should extend my stay in this cage of flesh and bones for more number of years? He is already worn out. You mean to say I should extend my stay? On the other hand, Lord is calling me, come, come, enough. Do you mean to say I should make him wait further? Already he has waited 60, 70 years. See the way they are, facing death. How cheerfully they face death. This is something which we have to learn. This is the strength which knowledge gives. Our Gurudev also, the way he met with death, is wonderful. When he was 77 years old or something, his heart was functioning only 18%. But he used to work for 18 hours a day. At that age, with heart functioning 18%. So one army officer came to Gurudev and said, Swamiji, what is the inspiration? What is the secret behind your inspiration, enthusiasm? He was an army officer. So Gurudev said, while you take rum, I take ram. That is the difference. This is the power of God. This is the power of knowledge. So Gurudev was using his body like we use batteries, How do we use battery? The last drop of charge also we use before we throw it away, isn't it? In the same way they were using this body. Unconcerned. So from where do they get this strength from? They gain this strength from this knowledge that I am not this body at all. Yehaiva tairjitas sargaha yesham samye sthitam manaha. In all Mahātmās you will find this common story repeated. In Ramana Maharshi also you will find same story. He was suffering from some cancer or something. So the devotee said, Bhagavan, you must go to a doctor. We will take you to the doctor. He said, nothing doing. Let the doctor come to me if he wants. Doctor came. It is said even without performing anesthesia, they performed the operation. And Ramana Maharshi was just watching. As though operation is happening in somebody else's body. Absolute detachment. He just withdrew the mind from the body and he was just watching. Just imagine what kind of strength this knowledge gives. In all Mahātmās story you will find this. The reverse is also true. People who are very, very famous. There is a person called Voltaire, a French philosopher. I don't know whether you have heard of him. Voltaire. Even while he was living, his books were read by college students. Voltaire. Worldly famous, very rich, powerful, but did not have spiritual knowledge. It is said at the time of death he was howling and screaming. Somebody help me, I am seeing only darkness. The best doctors were around him. He was admitted to the best hospital, but what was his condition? At the time of death he was screaming and howling. Very famous person, very renowned person, but did not know how to face death. No inner strength. So this we see in the world. So this is the glory of knowledge. Many more other benefits we will see tomorrow. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramayah Sarve Bhadrani Pasyantu Ma Kaschit Dukkha Bhag Bhave Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha.